Pete Buttigieg ran a small town in Indiana and ran it into the ground, which of course qualifies him to be president of the United States. If he had driven a car off a Chappaquiddick Bridge, that would have qualified him to be president of the United States as well. If he couldn't put one foot in front of the other, like Joe Biden, that would qualify him to be president of the United States as well. The Democrats have a very low bar and no standards when it comes to electing their president. So there we are. And he was in front of the House of Representatives the other day in a committee. A Republican questioned him quite well and wanted to know about these high prices. Is this really part of a plan? Because, you know, Biden has been throwing out all kinds of shiny objects out there that he wants you to follow, all kinds of diversions. He's never really settled on one. But the truth has come out, finally. Now, we've known it, but they finally speak the truth. We want to make this quote-unquote transition to windmills and wind as painful as possible. So you can no longer afford your automobile or your truck. You can no longer afford gasoline. You can no longer afford to cool your house in the summer or warm your house in the winter. We want supply of fossil fuels to dry up, and we want prices to go through the roof, and we want you to wait in lines. We want brownouts and blackouts. We want it all. Now think about how they're doing that. They're sabotaging our economy, our country. We were energy independent 20 months ago, 20 damn months ago. Go.
I looked at the F-150 you said, both the electric and the gas-powered one, and there's a difference of about $20,000 between one and the other. And when you look at the $20,000, if you estimate about 20 miles a gallon, it's going to take about, at today's prices, it takes about 80,000 miles in order for you to break even. I'm not even talking about charging costs. I'm just talking, no charging costs. And so if you actually put that down to about $2.50 a gallon, which was, the price of gas, before the Biden administration, that you don't break even until about 160,000 miles. Is the Biden administration actively pursuing high energy prices in order to force Americans into electric vehicles?
Of course not. And I also want to emphasize that you don't have to wait that 80,000 or 160,000 miles or however many it would be to break even if you don't pay for the vehicle in cash, right? The great thing about an auto loan is you can realize or lease, is you can realize the savings in terms of less maintenance and less fuel.
Oh, I see. So now we have Buttigieg, the mortgage and finance advisor. Interest rates are through the roof. To pay for an automobile is very, very expensive. The price of an automobile has gone through the roof. Used or new, the availability of automobiles is very difficult right now. But just look how he blows this off. Go ahead.
Initial car payment might be higher, right? And so you're coming out ahead right out of the gate instead of having to wait many years for a payback, unless, of course, you are buying the vehicle in cash.
No, you can. I mean, your finance costs are going to be, depends if you lease it, et cetera. But the finance, at the end of the day, you're going to be paying $20,000 more, however you cut it, at least. And actually, if you finance it, you're going to pay it more because you're going to be paying interest. All right. So at the end of the day, again, you're going to take either 80 at $5 a gallon. It's 80,000 miles to break even. And then, by the way, have you figured in the 10-year lifespan of a battery that you have to change? So if you have 100,
yes, we have. I mean, the estimates that are showing that this is reaching parity and pointing toward a savings, depending on the model, do account for things like that.
But you would agree that the higher the price of gas, then the faster you reach that parity.
Of course, the more pain we are all experiencing from the high price of gas, the more benefit there is for those who can access electric vehicles. It's why we're hoping you and your colleagues might reconsider opposing the reduction of EV upfront prices with tax credits.
So you're saying the more pain we have, the more benefit we're going to get.
Of course.
I think that's what I heard you say. You said the more pain that we
really,
have.
That's what you heard me say.
That's what I heard you say.
I know you want me to say it so bad, but okay. Honestly, sir, what we're saying is that we could have no pain at all by making EVs cheaper for everybody, and we'd love to have your support on that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, he wants the federal government to get into the automobile making business, to subsidize electric vehicles. Now, just think of this mess. Where's all the electricity coming from? Does anybody know? We just fly a kite and attach a key to it, then we get electricity. Where does electricity come from? Where does 80% of our electricity come from? Fossil fuels. Hydroelectric plants, which are less and less useful because they are stuck where they are. Nuclear power plants, we haven't had a new one in several decades because it's impossible to get the licenses to build them. Coal, natural gas, oil. That's where we get electricity from. Now, what about expanding our grid? No. What about protecting our grid? They haven't done very much at all. So if you're already having brownouts and blackouts in different parts of the country, especially California, but they're spreading, it's just a matter of time. If you're already going to have that, can you imagine? Can you imagine put 10 million automobiles on the grid? Because most people think you just plug your car into the electrical outlet in your garage. That's where the electricity comes from. Where does that electricity come from? It's like food. Where does the food you eat come from? There's a whole chain of events that takes place. And what these people do is they destroy these chains of events. Efficiencies, productivity, profit, they destroy them. And so you have intended consequences and unintended consequences. They're not smart enough to substitute their bureaucratic and political decisions for the God knows how many thousands or tens of thousands of people who are involved in the supply chain. Look at baby formula. They can't even figure out how to get more baby formula. You know how much more complex an automobile is? Or the extraction and development of fuel is than baby formula? They can't figure it out. They don't have an answer. This is a disaster. And Joe Biden the other day saying, it's a national emergency. I'm going to use my executive powers. Let me tell you something, folks. They are already nationalizing our energy industry. They have effectively nationalized our energy industry. I don't mean by ownership, but by control and management. Those companies can't drill without permission, and they're not getting permission. They can't truck without permission. They can't refine without permission. They can't deliver without permission. They're being destroyed through regulation and taxation.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to LevinTV.com and subscribe now.